What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. I just got done watching the first race of the Michigan doubleheader, and I have to say that I was very impressed with the race today. We saw a very kind of boring race last time we were in Michigan in the summer for the first race we ran in Michigan last year, but the first race in Michigan, it put on a lot better performance than I thought it was going to be. Because honestly, I thought these guys were going to be a little bit more safe, especially since, we have a second race coming up, and you can't really tear a car up if you don't want to start in the back of this race. But honestly, the guys put on a really good show. Let's go ahead and talk about this race. So this race is only 156 laps, so because of that, this race felt a lot shorter, and the intensity throughout the race was non-stop. We saw a lot of passing for the lead in this race. Then we saw like 9 or 10 different leaders in this race at some point. But really, throughout this race, it looked like Kevin Harvick had the best car in the race. It was really going to be tough to beat Kevin Harvick, but we also saw the addition of the choose cone being implemented. We actually saw the choose cone earlier this year in the All-Star race, and we got to see a glimpse of that at the Trucks race as well here in Michigan. We see it at Road America because there's no choose cone for the road courses, but we got to see the choose cone in it, and I have to say, I think that's one of the big contributing factors to why today's race was really awesome to watch and better than usual. These restarts were insane. You saw guys going 3 or 4 wide on the restarts. It was beating and banging throughout the field. And we saw some tempers as well in this race. Early in the action, Joey Logano and Kyle Busch had a little bit of tempers flaring in this race. Granted, it wasn't major tempers. But we saw Kyle Busch get into Joey Logano. Kyle Busch actually had a pretty fast car today. His car was overall consistent. We got to see him drive up, and really throughout the day, Kyle Busch had probably a top 5 car throughout the race. The whole Joe Gibbs organization actually showed a lot of speed. Eric Jones, who is leaving the Joe Gibbs organization as well at the end of this year, he put on, in the beginning of this race, a very strong performance. Was running up as far as second at one point in the day before fading. I believe he ended up finishing in the top 10 in this race. So Eric Jones, in general, he put together a pretty good run in this race. And then Martin Truex Jr., let's talk about him a little bit as well in this race. Martin Truex Jr. had to battle back from adversity in this race. He had a tire go down, and he went a lap down, and he didn't get back on the lead lap till the start of stage 3, and he drove his way all the way back in third. Of course, there's some strategy to get up there because tires really weren't a factor. Granted, they did matter in this race because we saw some tires down, like Truex's. Tyler Reddick's another one who had to kind of bounce his way back as well a little bit in this race because he had a tire go down early in this race. But he was able to, I believe he got a top 20. So Tyler Reddick, overall, he had a great day. But really, this race was the Kevin Harvick show. There was really no one in this race that could touch him in the event. And it really looked like it was going to be, if the Fords were fast all day, I think they were the strongest organization, strongest manufacturer, I should say. But Kevin Harvick was just better than pretty much everybody else in this race. Had the best all-around car. Tires, like I said, weren't as big of a factor as I kind of maybe thought they were. Well, they weren't as big a factor, and it's not surprising because Michigan tires don't completely matter, in my honest opinion. But Kevin Harvick straight up had the best car, so of course he was going to be able to pass everybody and get his 4th win at Michigan. That's right. Kevin Harvick today was able to score his 5th win of the year, his 54th career victory, and Kevin Harvick also won his 4th race in Michigan. So congratulations to Kevin Harvick on winning today's race. Some other major incidents happened in this race. John Nemechek had a very bad day. I believe he brought out 3 cautions in this race, and he just did not finish very well in this race. Not a great day for him. At the end of this race, between Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, there was a very controversial move that did happen. Kyle Busch actually was leading this race with around 8 laps to go. Yes, Kyle Busch actually led last and was really competitive, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. But Kyle Busch had a little bit of contact with Kevin Harvick. It was very slight contact, but these cars are so aero-sensitive that Kyle got really sideways coming down the front stretch, and he fell way back and just, he never really got back up there and could touch. I believe he still got a top 5 today, so a really good run for Kyle Busch. But, he could have probably had a shot to still win the race, hold off Kevin Harvick. Another driver I really was impressed with at the end of this race especially was Bubba Wallace. On that second-to-last restart, Bubba Wallace was running 5th, and he drove his way almost to the race lead, trying to make it 3 wide for the lead. He fell back as far as like 7th on the restart, but I got to give Bubba a lot of props for trying. And it looks like we pretty much know he's probably re-signing with RPM. Don't know if, well, that's not been confirmed yet. But he pretty much, when he's saying that, is in a post-race interview. He got a top 10 finish. We kind of heard a glimpse of possibly where he might be going next year. I think he'll probably end up remaining with the RPM organization. But a great run for Bubba Wallace regardless today. Hendrick Motorsports was a lot of his race nowhere to be seen. No car in the top 5. And Chase Elliott was running like 11th or 12th a lot of the day. But with some strategy restart in the front row, Chase Elliott looked like a winning contender in this race. It looked like he was going to go out there and contend for the race to win today, but he kind of fell back in the race. He still ended up scoring a pretty strong run, though, in this race. Joey Logano looked really fast today as well at the beginning of this race, but Logano just fell back and really had a hard time getting back up front. I don't think he finished very well in this race. We'll go now into the race results and talk about the race right after overall my thoughts and opinion of the race. So, Kevin Harvick won today's race. Best car, no surprise there. Brad Keselowski finished his second. Mark Truex Jr. bounces back to a third-place finish. Ryan Blaney, another very strong performance in fourth. Kyle Busch gets a good top 5 run. I thought Kyle Busch was going to struggle this weekend a little bit. Had a very strong run. Denny Hamlin finished 6th. Hamlin had a really fast car at the beginning of this race, but he really fell back and never can get really back up there. But he gets a 6th-place finish. Very solid run. Chase Elliott finishes 7th. Joey Logano 8th. Bubba Wallace finishes 9th. Really strong run for Bubba Wallace. I believe he now breaks his record for most top 10s in a season. I don't know that. I don't remember the results. And Kurt Busch finishes 10th. Eric Jones finishes 11th. Eric Jones had a really, really fast car in his race, but he kept getting killed on the restarts, which killed his really strong run. He was doing very well in this race, but he finished 11th. That's not bad. He does gain points on William Byron in the playoffs. Jimmy Johnson finishes 12th. Christopher Bell finishes 13th. William Byron 14th. Matt DiBenedetto 15th. 16th, Eric Almirola. Eric Almirola had one of the worst races he's had of the year. Unfortunately, this does end his top 10 consecutive streak. He had a 9-race streak going for top 10s. Eric really just was not fast all day. He completely struggled and was a non-factor in this race, while his other 3 teammates were kind of factors at some point in this race. Matt Kenseth 17th. Tyler Reddick bounced back to an 18th place finish. Solid run for Tyler Reddick. Quinn Boyer finishes 19th. Another not great run for Boyer. And Chris Buescher finishes 20th. Alex Bowman finished 21st. Once again, non-existent. I expected Bowman to struggle this weekend. And once, no surprise, he struggled this weekend's race. Corey LaJoie 22nd. Ty Dillon 23rd. 24th, Daniel Suarez. 25th, Ryan Preece. 26th, J.J. Yeley. 27th place goes to Quinn Houff. 28th, Ryan Newman. Michael McDowell, 29th. 30 places, Reed Sorensen. 31st, Austin Dillon. 32nd, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 33rd, Timmy Hill. 34th, Cole Custer. 35th, Garrett Smithley. 36th, John Hunter. 37th, Brennan Poole. 38th, James Davidson. And finishing last place in 39th is Joey Gase. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this race and close out this episode and get out of here, basically. So, overall, I thought today's race, like I said, I mentioned in the beginning episode, was a really, really strong race for Michigan standards, because the last couple races in Michigan, I think over the last few years, especially this race, has not put on a great show. I think we had one of the best Michigan races in quite some time, and the finish, once again, was just chaotic and crazy, and we've seen so many just races this year where the last couple I burped. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, we've seen the last couple races where we've seen some really, really fast finish. NASCAR, why do you keep throwing so many cautions? But yeah, like I said, the choose car in the beginning episode, I think that was a really good contributing factor to why the racing was as good as it was. We all saw the trashy compound come into this race. We have another race coming up tomorrow. I think Kevin Harvick will once again probably be the favorite for the race. I'll be watching some other guys like Chase Elliott to be running up front in this race at points. Probably expecting Kyle Busch to once again have a really strong performance. I can't remember who's on the poll. Let me double check that real quick. I just checked, because Chris Buescher is actually going to start on the pole for the race. That's very important. So the front row, unless they, of course, they fail inspection. Oh, I forgot to mention this as well. Roush Fenway Racing, those guys had issues before the race even began. They had their rear spoilers confiscated because of I think there were high issues with the rear spoilers, which didn't really hurt him, because Chris Buescher had an okay day. 20th place. He will start on the pole. So a lot of guys like Clint Boyer starting up front as well. William Byron starting pretty well. Jimmy Johnson starting 9th. So we have inverted field for at least the top 20. Kevin Harvick will have to drive his way up there. But we got another race tomorrow. We're going to do this once again. I think the race will be really, really good. I think we saw a very good, really strong first race, and then choose car really helped that out. And I think we're going to see a very strong race at Michigan tomorrow. And we're getting really close to playoffs as well. I will be looking at that playoff bubble grid at some point this week once we do complete this race, as we will only have 4 races to go after tomorrow's race. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Turn notifications on so you can be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Link description below for that. And combo your thoughts on today's race. What did you think of today's race? Let me know in the comments below. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. And I will see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.